I want to thank you all for being here. I also want to thank our speakers for being here, Heather Decker, Marianne Dugan, Jill Fetherstonhaugh, and Kyle Dukelow. In addition to our speakers, I just want to make sure I recognize the organizations that were part of making this event happen. That would be the Oregon State Bar Quality of Life Committee, the Phi Alpha Delta Student Law Fraternity, and of course the Center for Career Planning and Professional Development. So thank you very much, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kyle Dukelow.
Thank you for that nice introduction. I'm sorry, that's my Toastmaster training. They clap after everything. You are all here for what's called, what we phrase as how to work a room. Now, that term in and of itself could have bad connotations. So we don't want you to leave here thinking, I'm going to go work a room. Don't do that. Working a room is just a step you have to take to introduce yourself to people you don't know. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Before I get into the introductions, I do have some questions for you as students. And just to raise your hand, who out there, and actually the panelists too, who out there considers yourself an extrovert? If you do, raise your hand. Okay. A few. A couple up here. The rest of you, I presume, are introverts. That's why I don't ask. I learned last year. Last year I asked, who's an introvert first? Not a good way. Not a good idea. Second, just raise your hand. Who's one else? Okay. And who's two else? And a couple of three L's? Okay. So the three L's, you'll be using this probably in 9 months, if not before. Probably before. For the rest of you, you can use this practice through things that go on at the university and just work on your skills. The reason I asked who's an extrovert and who's an introvert, you're going to have different experiences when it comes to meeting new people. I'm probably not telling the introverts anything they don't already know. It's not easy to just get out of your shell and meet people. What we try to give you with the handout is just some guidelines to make it a little more comfortable. But once you start doing it, once you start practicing it, you'll learn to fake it pretty well. For the extroverts, the one advice I would have is sometimes being an extrovert can be a handicap because you forget that the other person wants to say something too. Or you might want to learn something from that other person who may just be an introvert. So keep that in mind. My name is Kyle Dukelow. As you figured out, I'm an introvert, but I hide it well. I'm a University of Oregon Law School grad from 1993. When I graduated, the economy was pretty bad. Just actually now it's worse than it was when I graduated. But I fell into a system that a lot of you may fall into, which is not a lot of jobs. You're going to have to do a lot of contract work. You're going to have to do some networking to get that. I have my own office up in Portland. I do mostly criminal defense and personal injury, and that's a little bit about me. Jill, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Jill Fetherstonhaugh, and I have a small practice in Eugene, Business Law Center. I do general corporate work, business work, and I graduated also in 1998 from the University of Oregon School of Law. And let me see. Yes, I'm happy to be here today, and I'm going to say I'm an extrovert, but I will tell you, I think for everybody, and it'll be interesting. Did you say extrovert, introvert, extrovert? I did that, right? so it's hard for me, right? To walk into a room where people I don't know. It's like I don't just go in there and go, look at all these people that want to talk to me. You know, it doesn't work like that. So hopefully we'll be able to help give you a few tips today that will be helpful to you. So thank you for inviting me, Bonnie, wherever you are.
Marianne.
Hi. So I'm a U of O graduate as well. I'm from '93. Kyle's classmate. We've had 2 years. And I have a solo practice in Eugene. I do employment discrimination for plaintiffs. I do environmental law. I do legal malpractice against attorneys. I do police misconduct for plaintiffs. I have to say I've always considered myself an introvert, like almost painfully shy as a child, but going to law school took care of some of that. And having to appear in court in front of people you don't know and who may not even feel like you very well. Having to put on trials and talk to jurors has helped a lot, quite a bit. So, and then just making myself go to events and meet people that I wouldn't normally engage with as we'll discuss, is a really good way to help yourself, not just in business sense, but in your own personal development.
And I'm Heather Decker. I'm a 1996 graduate of the law school and 93 graduate of undergrad. In fact, my dormitory is across the street, so it's your home. I was talking about that earlier. So I have practiced in Portland since graduating from law school and worked in small firms and medium-sized firms, and then started working as a contract attorney and did that for about 11 years. And that was just so successful and enjoyable. It was a great way to work and control my schedule and manage life with small children. My practice involved construction defect litigation, all kinds of insurance-related disputes, including insurance defense, personal injury, business disputes, and insurance coverage. And I guess what I would like to say about the introvert-extrovert issue is, number one, it's helpful to know what your tendencies might be, but I think it's also a little bit of a sliding scale. In some ways, I'm definitely an extrovert, but if I do too much of that, I get kind of tired, and I kind of need to be a little bit more of an introvert. And so I'm learning as I get older to really, I'm seeing more balance in my life in that way, and actually have to actively seek it out so that I have time to have downtime and quiet time too. So maybe a blend. Yeah.
Excellent. And we like to have a free form thing, so if anybody has questions, just shout them out, raise your hand, whatever. Get my attention, and we'll let you ask it. First, I want to ask Jill, if you're going to a professional event, like a social or some awards thing, what would you do to prepare for that ahead of time? If anything?
Okay, so, like I said, when I walk in a room, I mean, this is the honest truth. When I walk in a room, unless I know people there or there is some truthfully social reason that I want to be there, I don't want to go. and that's truthfully in myself, and like for example, my associate, he will go, Jill, do you want to go to the Christmas party at the bar? Or Jill, do you want to go to the baseball game, the spring bash, or whatever? And I'm going, no. And it's like, and I said, but if you want to go, I'll take you and I'll introduce you around, right? So I guess what I would tell you is when I go to an event, I have to think about why I'm going, all right? And why am I going there? Am I going there because I have to? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm going somewhere because I have to go there, I don't think I'm going to do a very good job of networking, all right? So really, I got to get my own intention in mind, all right? And so if I'm going to introduce my associate there, I've got so he doesn't know anybody, that's going to be great. I'm going to walk him around, introduce him to all the people I know, and we'll have nice conversations and we'll have fun together. Or I'm going to go because it's like, look, Jill, you know what? You haven't been to the bar Christmas party in like 5 years, and then I can go down there and say hi to some of your friends and, have a few drinks and have a nice time. So I guess the number one thing I would say is I have to decide why I'm going, all right? And I've got to make sure that it's a reason where I can be my best self. If it's not, then the next analysis would be, do I have to go, right? So did my boss say, Jill, go and represent our firm at this event? Now that's a motivator, so now I know why I'm going. I'm going because my boss wants me to go, so I want to go and be a good representative of the firm, which I will do. But even me, and I'll tell you, I'll get there, and I'll see people I know, if I do, and I'll have fun. I will. But it's that walking in the door, looking around, going, oh my God, here we go. And just kind of hooking into the event somehow. So that's what I do.
Thank you, Jill. And Marianne, is there anything you would add to that? A little more preparation as an introvert, or it's good to know that you have fears too.
I have fears, apprehension mostly.
Well, I usually try to find out who I know who's going and try to go with them, so I don't walk in and have that moment of, I don't recognize anybody in this room. Or I came too early, or I came too late. so if I go with somebody, then at least we're a team, we're a gang. But I also try to figure out how to dress because I'm one of the more casual people, probably even in Eugene for an attorney. I don't generally dress for work. If I have a new client who I don't know, I dress like this. This is my dress-up clothes here, and then I have dressier clothes for being in court. But normally I'm pretty casual, so I try to figure out, is this like, how do people dress at the bar Christmas party? Turns out you just wear what you want to wear, probably. But I try to make sure not to feel underdressed because that's a real easy thing for me to end up doing.
Excellent, thank you, Marianne. And Heather, one thing Marianne's talked about was timing of arrival. You're not going to be too early or too late. Do you time your arrivals to social gatherings or?
I usually try to get there right on time. It often depends on what's happening in my life, and people, especially for law events, are quite often late because they're trying to get out of the office. And so any time from the time the event starts until half an hour or 45 minutes later is arrival time, I think, for most attorneys. And I think something that I usually do to prepare is write a check and fill out a form because quite often we're paying a fee to attend a dinner or whatever. We'll quite often be with friends going to the event in the first place, and that's nice, and or seeing one or two people that I know. And sometimes, I end up saying, well, instead of meeting everyone in the room, I'm just going to talk to one or two people in depth tonight. And I enjoy that too. But one little tip I have about walking in the room is when you go to the registration table, scan the name tags and see who's there or who's going to be arriving. You might even get to take a look at the attendance roster if some of the name tags are already taken. And you start with the folks you recognize, and even if they don't know you, if you know them, it still helps to get that started.
Thank you, and that great advice on scanning the list of names. I'm usually just looking for my own name to make sure I paid. But one thing all three of you said was, well, if I get the chance, I want to go with friends. So I'll ask the panel as a whole, if you're going with friends, do you find a risk of doing that maybe you won't network as much as you would if you went alone?
Depends on the friends. So, sometimes I'm with people who are introducing me to folks that I would like to meet, and most of I don't usually take my husband to these things because then I feel an obligation to keep him entertained. But if I can go by myself, then I can go from one conversation to another at my own pace. And I usually go with friends who do the same thing. So we sort of divide and conquer, and then we'll find each other later. And it's all good.
So you kind of have an agreement, whether it's tacit.
I think it's kind of implicit. Yeah. I have a couple friends from Eugene actually who come up to Portland quite often, and we make the rounds to different events together, and that's what we do.
And for you two also?
Yeah, similar. I think if I go with colleagues, like people who are already attorneys, we're both usually pretty comfortable, going and talking to different groups of people, at least people we know. A lot of times I'll be going with a student mentor, a mentee, and I don't really want to abandon them. So I would introduce them around, and then I'm not really networking. Well, I might be somewhat, but I'm introducing them to people I know rather than engaging in the networking process.
And I would say that kind of depending on the event, I would go alone or go with someone. But I'm a social person, so I usually will call up like my friends and say, "Going to the bar Christmas party," and so they'll say, "Oh yeah, we'll be there," and then I'll meet somebody there or something. I do that just so I know there's going to be someone there that I like and that I will enjoy talking to. Right? It's just a starting point. I think it just helps preparing. But then at that point, I think you touched on that, Marianne. I'll say, to my friend, I'll say, "Hey, Arlene, I don't know, I've never met that lawyer, And she goes, "Oh, I come over and I'll introduce you." So that really, really can help. So even if you know somebody who knows other people, that would be a good, you know them pretty well, ask them or invite them or, ask if you can go along. And then that person can help and invite you around. Like I've done that with my associate Kirk, and I said, I'll take you and show you around. Then you learn. You know, it's a good way. It's a lot less, because that way when you're introduced, it's much easier to network and meet somebody than it is when you just have to go up and say, hi, I'm Jill. Who are you? You know, that's hard. That's especially hard if you're a law student. Really hard. So.
I have one more thing to add. Don't forget to, if you do attend an event with an attorney or an older law student or whatever, older, I guess, 3L or something, don't forget to introduce them to your friends and
Right.
colleagues as well, because I can't tell you how often I've been in a mentoring relationship with somebody or met someone when they were a law student and then they become, and lo and behold, they're a colleague and they have a circle of friends that I want to meet, even though we, maybe met in a different context. So, so remember to do that. I think it's, one, it's just good manners to introduce people to each other, but also, you never know. That law student may want to meet the attorney that you're with, and that attorney may have a connection with the law students in your circle.
Thank you. Yeah, and Jill, one thing you said was just coming right up to somebody you don't know and saying, hi, I'm Jill.
Mm-hmm.
The sad part is sometimes in networking, you
Right.
don't have friends coming or you're at a luncheon or something. Given that situation, how do you start a conversation? Is it just, hi, I'm Jill? Okay.
Well, it kind of depends, but I guess it depends on the event, and there's, again, I think you touched on this, Kyle, this is about, if I'm there, I've decided why I'm there, okay? So then, at that point, I'm kind of operating off that premise, right? So let's just say I go to a bar lunch, and I walk in, and it's a subject matter, therefore I don't know a lot of the attorneys, right? I'm going to recognize names. I'm going to know some name, right? So I might know, let's say I'm thinking John Gartland. I know he does a lot of mediation, but I don't really know John. So I'll see that he's there or whatever, and I'll go up to him and say, John, I'm Jill Fetherstonhaugh. We've never met, and I know you're really focused on mediation. How did you get into that? I'm really interested in that. And here's like tip number one about talking to people. People like to talk about themselves, okay? They like less to hear you talk about yourself, okay? So really, and it's got to be genuine. I mean, don't say, hi Jill, nice to meet you. Tell me a little bit about your practice. And I'm looking at you and you're going, I don't want to know about my practice. You're networking me, right? So don't do that. I mean, if you can't come up with a genuine question, don't ask it, because I'm going to know it's not genuine, including tonight. Okay, so right, so I guess what I do is you go up, you think about why you're going up. Again, set your intention. Why are you going up to that person? And if you're in a crowd, you just don't know anybody, then I might just go up and say, hi, I'm Jill, and you know what? I don't know anybody. And like, what do you do? And we'll just have a little conversation, right? And then maybe Kyle knows somebody, he'll say, oh, Marianne's Jill, and you know what I mean? You just kind of build it from there. So you just got to be brave. It's about bravery. That's what it is, right? Even for an extrovert, it's about bravery and sincerity. Yeah.
Perfect, and that actually brings an idea, or give you some interview advice too here. I have a friend, he's not a lawyer, but he's been out of work for a good 9 months or so. And he is somebody that he will tell you everything about himself. And when I told him, when you go to an interview, the main thing you want to do is get the interviewer talking about themselves. I mean, that's rule number one. Who doesn't know that? No hands. My friend was shocked and amazed that that's...
I think a lot of people don't know that.
He's one of them.
Yeah.
The Career Center is doing good for you guys because you don't have that problem. But now we've talked a little bit about starting conversations. Sometimes you're talking to somebody and they go on and on and on. How do you get out of that situation? Heather or Marianne? When you want to move on to somebody else, how do you politely?
Well, if you're in a large gathering, like the bar Christmas dinner or, the Owls annual dinner in Portland, Mercedes Diaz and Betty Roberts Awards dinner, usually the cocktail hour style gathering, things move fairly quickly. So if you just wait for a few moments, just quietly, someone else is going to join the conversation, and as soon as someone else comes in, then you can just say, it was so nice talking with you. I hope to see you soon. Or, ask for a business card, or you can excuse yourself to get a drink of water or refill your soda can or whatever it is you have.
Right.
I like to visit the food line while I'm there, so I always make sure I take a few minutes to do that. And I'd say unless someone's a really close friend of yours and you don't want to hang out with one person the entire night, it just becomes a little overbearing, because the cocktail parties just have a flow and people are expected to go in and out. I don't know, I feel like we covered this in Sorority Rush 101, but anyone who was in the Greek system in college, you probably are familiar with that type of a party. You make your way around to different groups and you want, everyone's doing that. So I think it's good to, just kind of excuse yourself and just give yourself a minute if you're ready to go before the conversation is ready. And you do have to kind of wait for people to stop talking.
Yeah.
Marianne?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've gotten better at being more assertive sometimes. Like, I see somebody I haven't seen in a long time, I just want to go say hi to them. It's really nice talking to you. Because sometimes you can't just wait until somebody else rescues you. That might not happen, especially if
They might be staying away.
They might be staying away. I've met a few people like that where I thought, oh my gosh, okay, no wonder you were standing by yourself. And I won't name any names. But yeah, or somebody I see, if somebody I know I see walking by, I'll say, oh hey, have you met so-and-so? And then I wait, politely. Or I say I have to go to the restroom, which might be true. Oh gosh, I get to network with all of you now, so if I say I have to go to the restroom, they're on.
No, it's not going on.
I do have one other tip, and it's just kind of an of-the-moment tip, but I've noticed as we've gotten our smartphones, we're also tempted to look at them, and it becomes a really unconscious, reflexive thing. But for people who, like all of us old lawyer people who you're going to meet at these bar events, we are sort of new to this technology, and so we don't necessarily reflexively look at it as much. It's in our purse or our pocket or whatever, and so if we see someone else doing it, it's not something that we accept as part of our experience. And so we think, my God, what is that person doing looking at their phone? So even though it's maybe something that is comfortable in your experience at law school or with your peers, it's definitely not going to be comfortable in that setting. You need to look at your phone. You probably need to be not talking to somebody, not in someone's company, or maybe just go out in the hallway and do that quickly. Otherwise, just put it on silent, put it in your pocket, and try your best to forget about it. It's really got to be a conscious decision on your part. The only time I look at my phone at an event is, if I have a childcare issue or something that really just has precedence. But otherwise, I try not to, because I think that I just need to give the event my attention, and I wouldn't want to be talking with someone and then glancing down at my phone. It's just, it doesn't feel right for the recipient.
Yeah, very good idea, one very good recommendation. And one thing I do is, because I usually use my phone just for time, the only time I wear a watch is when I know I'm not going to be looking at my phone, so I wore one today. But that's very good advice. Any questions out there? Any specific examples you guys?
Off of that and your comment, so it's time to buy a watch, is it bad form to check your watch when you're talking to someone?
I got a great tip on that. Don't check your own watch, look at mine. That's what I do. If I need to get the time, and I do this with clients all the time, I look at their watch. I don't go like this. No, it's like I look at their watch, look at someone else's watch, right? And I've had one thing about the cell phone, and I think it is true, and I think it is generational as well. But you know what? They're manners. Remember your manners, okay? Introduce. The proper way to introduce is, hello, Kyle. Kyle, this is Marianne. Marianne, this is Kyle. That's how you introduce somebody. You don't just go, hey, Marianne, this is Kyle. And then it's like, now it's really, and it sounds old-fashioned, but be polite. Use your manners. Think about them. Here's another one. Cell phone. Do not sit at the table and think, take your cell phone, put it on your lap, and do this. Don't do that, right? It's so rude. I mean, in my mind, when I see somebody do that, unless they have told me, hey, I've got kids at home, And so I need to keep my cell phone on, and because the babysitter texts me or something. And then when I see them look at their cell phone, I go, oh, that's their kids. But when I see someone down their cell phone, I'm just thinking, really? You know, why am I here? I mean, really think about it. If I was at the table with you, and I just reached down here and pulled out a magazine and just started reading it, what would you think? You think, oh my God, she's the rudest person I've ever met, right? That's what I think when I see the cell phone, okay? Not unless I need, you better be a surgery, an emergency room doctor, or have kids, okay? Anything else is like, you know, shut it off and put it in your pocket, so.
Yeah, and I'll just add to what Jill said about the watch. That is a not so subtle clue if you get in that interminable conversation. Like, you know, and if they're not getting that clue, then you kind of do have to be more assertive, like Marianne, just, well, I gotta go. To the bathroom or something.
Oh my gosh, I was supposed to be somewhere different. No, sorry.
So, was there another hand? Yeah.
Just kind of the flip side to the last question about leading the conversation. What are different ways that you've had to deal with maybe seeing someone that you really want to talk to at one of these events, but they seem to be really engaged in conversation with someone else that you kind of entered into that?
That is a very good question. Any suggestions?
Well, maybe I'm betraying my claim that I'm an introvert, but I'm really rude, I think. I just walk up to people and I say, hey, I haven't seen you in a long time. I wait till they're not directly talking to each other, but, you know, just walk up to them and put my nose in back and say, I haven't seen you in a while, or Mr. So-and-so, I've been meaning to say, introduce myself to you.
Yeah, I guess one tactic I've kind of used at times with that is just letting the person know you're there, whether it is, like Marianne said, touching them on the back, and then moving away.
Yeah.
So that they can seek you out. I mean, if they're in the midst of a deep conversation, yeah, you don't want to intrude, but you do want to let the person know that you're there and you want to talk at some point.
I've been known to wait in the wings, either
Hovering low.
stealthily at a distance or close by, depending on who it is, and I just wait until they're free, and then we'll swoop in. Because if it's someone like, you know, Ellen Rosenblum, who's our new Attorney General, and I've got to act fast to get in her company. I mean, you can't be waiting, you might miss it. She'll be gone and off the other side of the room. So I think it's okay to, you know, circle your prey a little bit and strike with iron, you know, when you can. But just keep a distance if you're doing that.
That's a good way to look at networking, is to circle your prey.
Circle your prey.
You take anything away from today. So this is just a basic thing, but does anybody have an opinion on where they should put their name tag? Where name tags should go?
I like them by your face because people, I hate it when we wear these ones that are like on a lanyard that's down at your stomach or whatever. I'm like, yeah, up here on that chin level just about.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because that was a trend. I don't know if they're getting away from it now, the wearing the necklace type thing. Big neck. It needs to be bigger if they're going to do that.
People want to be looked at in their eyes and their face when they're doing that, I think.
Yeah. This is a psychological trick that I learned. And what it is everybody shakes their hand with their right hand. This is not natural for people to put it on over your right chest. But as you're shaking their hand, they're looking down at your name.
Well, that makes it easy for them too, because they're looking at your hands, so you don't actually notice it.
Yeah, so
Like
it's
the
a-
watch thing.
Yeah, and it's a double
Yeah.
reinforcement. You're saying what your name is. They're also reading it.
Good.
And as we've learned with jury trials, you know, it's,
Yeah.
if you can tell them and they can see it, it's much more effective. So just a little tidbit there. We did talk a little bit, or talked a lot about going to social. It's funny, when you first said going to the bar, Christmas party, I was like, your bar has a Christmas party. So bringing up a lot of times when we go to these gatherings, there is going to be alcohol involved. I'm sure none of the law students here have ever been to an event that had beer at it.
Yeah.
Is there anything special you'd like to impart? And I'll start with you, Jill.
Don't drink too much. I mean, just plain and simple. And if you're an alcohol drinker, I mean, you know, you don't have to worry about it too much if you don't drink alcohol. But if you drink alcohol, don't drink too much. And don't drink before you go to events. You know, I just, you know, work is work. Remember, when you walk in, like the Christmas party at the bar is a good example. That being the Lane County Bar Association. Okay, but you know, these are all people that you know, or that if they don't know, I mean, like, you know, I've been practicing Eugene since 1999. So if they don't know me, they know of me, or they've heard my name. And you know, if I have drank a lot and people see me, people are going to go, "Wow, who is that?" Right? I mean, that's what's going to happen. It's like, oh, that's Jill Bislow. Well, I heard about her, but wow, she was pretty drunk. You know? I mean, you're not going to, you just don't do it. Because, and I think, but with that said, if you're an introvert, or even me, you know, me, I go, and you know, it really helps to have a glass of wine. It really helps. It makes me feel more relaxed, a little less tense. Plus, if you come from work, you know, it just kind of shifts gears a little bit. If you drink, if you don't drink, then this is not an issue for you. But although some people that don't drink kind of benefit from a glass of wine, that's a little personal opinion. But in any case,
Jill Feathers.
yeah, that's right, exactly. So, but I guess what I would say is just don't drink too much. That's the rule number one. I mean, just that's it.
Very, very good rule.
Yeah.
What she said.
Yeah.
Also, boy, I ever since I was a little kid, I've been clumsy. I mean, my first year of law school, my first week of law school, I think, I went to one of the professor's houses, and I happened to drop a glass of red wine on his tile floor in the kitchen.
Poor thing.
And I was not drunk. So I usually try to be near a table where I can put my glass in and not be distracted by holding the glass while I'm trying to talk to you. But that's me.
Anything to add?
I think that's covered, and you know, if it's hard, just say, I'm only gonna have one drink tonight, and that's it for you. Just switch to water or club soda or ginger ale or whatever, and nobody's gonna give you a hard time. I would say, when you transition from, you know, a bar-related social setting into a more firm-related social setting, like you clerk at a firm and they have a party, now the expectations are a little different because it's a more intimate group of people who know each other, who may have done some drinking together in the past, and each firm has a different drinking culture. And so, I'm sorry to say this, but lawyers drink a lot.
Yeah.
And the older you get and the more you do marketing and you know, go with the partners to meet clients, there's more of an expectation that you're going to consume some alcohol. And I have to say that it's really important to even more so know your limits and do not feel comfortable to tie one on, because these people may be your friends, but they are still evaluating you all the time. And even though they want you to be able to have a good time and really, you know, show the client some fun, that doesn't mean that you're invited to be a lush. And as soon as you cross that line, you know, if you're a new lawyer, you're going to be forgiven, but that story will stay with you forever. And it sometimes can be difficult to live down. I know lawyers that have had a hard time with that. So when you get into those more intimate settings where you're really trying to get to know somebody, still be careful.
Yeah, it's not Mad Men out there. It's like, I've heard.
Right.
We only have a couple more minutes until we're going to break off for 15 and then start the speed dating. Sorry. You guys can talk about the speed networking event at 6. So if anybody has questions, speak now. And yes.
Given what was mentioned about how there's a bit of an expectation to drink more, is it still alright to have a firm rule even in those settings?
That you don't drink?
That you have a 1 or 2 drink rule?
I think so. I think
You always should have that rule, in my opinion.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't drink, don't drink.
Yeah.
I think in this day and age, people understand. You know, when I was in college, it looked weird if you didn't drink, but I think today there's a whole lot of people who don't drink at all.
Yeah, even in firms, I don't think they play quarters or things like that. So,
Yeah. And
I
you know
could be
what?
wrong.
If you don't drink, you know, if you don't drink, you can have a glass. Nobody knows what you're drinking, right? And you don't have to drink alcohol. I mean, you know, if you're not a drinker, then don't drink. Don't feel pressured to drink. Just have a glass. Be social. This, again, manners. Be social. Don't just, like, if someone says, would you like a drink? Don't say, no, I don't drink. You can say, please get me a 7-Up on ice, please. That'd be great. You know, you don't have to just be casual. You don't have to drink alcohol. People don't know. People just want to make sure, again, remember, people want to make sure they're not sticking out. So that's why they say, you know, they want to make sure you're drinking because they're drinking. So just drink something. It could be water with ice in it, all right? But again, think about where you are. And again, it's about being yourself if you have a nice personality, okay? It's about modifying yourself if you don't. And it's about working or playing well with others, okay? And that means paying attention, watching what's going on around you, and thinking of being a good, like even a host or a hostess, and even in every conversation you have. Okay, so again, so much of this is basic manners in my estimation.
I saw one other hand, or a couple minutes. I'll go on this. Sorry.
I'm just curious, usually do people have name tags on as most? Good.
I was gonna say, there's a lot of events where people don't. At our Christmas party, nobody has name tags, or even at like in support. So that is problematic.
Yeah, and up in Portland, I'm a member of the Oregon Tribal Lawyers Association. Generally, if we're having a bigger event, we have the name tags. COEs, they always have the name tags, which is also another network event, which what I've learned is the COEs, you don't really go there to get educated. You go there to network. So if that helps. And then one last question here.
I'm just going to ask, when you're talking to someone that you've just met or you don't know very well, are there certain topics that you kind of try to steer clear of in the conversation?
Religion,
Politics.
politics. Talking about the Oregon Ducks is almost always acceptable. You'll find a large number of our alums are practicing in Portland and or follow the Ducks because they just love them. And yeah, I mean, I think just the basic like social rules about that would apply. Don't feel compelled to get all sycophantic about that particular lawyer's recent victory in court or anything unless you actually know about it and you have a real interest in it and have a cogent question about it or observation. But yeah, otherwise stick to common themes like, your pets, your school, your kids, hobbies. Lawyers usually have either a current hobby or a past hobby. And some of us watch TV and movies too. And concerts. Yeah.
It's like so.
I have one other piece of advice that we just haven't covered, which is one of the disadvantages that, probably the only disadvantage you probably have as U of L law students is that you're not physically in Portland very much. So get thee to Portland as often as you can for events because there are quite a few of them, and I'm happy to talk to anyone who's interested about that. But you just need to traverse those 100 miles several times a year at least. Even as a first-year student, I'd say just get in the habit of going to Portland. And what'll happen is you'll meet some people, and then when you go to Portland, you'll say, oh, I'm going to go visit so-and-so at their firm. Or I'm going to go visit Judge such and such and watch him or her in court. And lo and behold, by the time you're a third-year student graduating from law school, you have a network already set up in Portland. But that's not going to happen if you stay in Eugene when you're going through law school, unless you intend to practice here, in which case, get out to the Lane County events.
Mm-hmm.
But just know that you're welcome to attend events in Portland. We want to see you there. And you're going to get the U of O alumni all excited because, especially if it's on your name tag, U of O Law 2015 or whatever, people are going to come talk to you.
To add one thing about things you don't talk about, remember, just because someone else is talking about something doesn't mean you have to chime in your opinion, okay? So let's say you were coming to and you were talking to me, okay? And I was talking about politics, and I was going off about how much I love Romney or how much I didn't love Romney or whatever I was doing, okay? the thing is, you don't have to say, "Well, I love him too," or "I hate him too." You know, you don't have to do that. You don't try to get on my side. It might just be better for you to say, you know, just, boy, there's a lot of debate. It's just so many interesting issues in this, election cycle. Boy, some people are so interested about Obamacare. I mean, you don't have to say what you think, all right? If they push you to it, then be honest, all right? But if they don't push you to it, you can engage in a conversation without having to say your opinion, especially, I might add, if you're talking to someone who you're trying to network with and you do not share their opinion. Okay? Don't try to get them to your way of thinking, okay? That's just going to be kind of a bust. So, I mean, because I'm not so much about staying away from things, I certainly wouldn't bring it up. I mean, I wouldn't start off talking about politics or religion or any of them. But if someone starts talking about it, I might engage, but I might not commit. Okay? So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I like that phrase too, engage but don't commit.
right. But still be truthful,
Yeah.
right? There's lots of positive things we can say, even about things that we don't agree with. So, there it is.
And at that, I'll leave it so that we can break, they can rearrange the room, we can get some snacks, and then start the speed networking event.
Thank you.